After like 2 months without streaming, we're finally back at streaming. So hello, welcome to our digital stream where we talk about various topics from tech over to airplanes and stuff. Like today. Today we'll talk about Apple's new M1 processor and how they will revolutionize the laptop and PC industry. And we'll talk about Lilium,
yes.
who will revolutionize the taxi air flight industry, like that.
We can say that. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot has happened the last weeks. So there was so much time for streaming, so zero. We're back with a new structure where we basically will focus first on topics, so quality over quantity. That means we will have one topic for each of us with better preparation, and let's hope they will be way more interesting and way more compact that way. Back then, our streams have usually been for 1 hour, around 1 hour. I guess today will be like 30, 40 minutes. Let's see. With our new approach. Yeah, I would say let's jump right into the first topic.
Yep.
Which would be the Apple Silicon. Oh boy, was that something yesterday. I mean, I've waited for this day for so long because I knew for now like 2 years that Apple would go with that step when I heard about this project also called Catalyst, where you can use your iPad app and put it on your Mac. Kind of like that. You develop an iPad app for the Mac, you know?
Okay, yes.
Catalyst allows that. When I heard about that, I was ready, why should they go that way?
Try to have just one global OS.
Exactly. And now, I mean, Apple announced it at the last WWDC 2020 this year that they will transition over 2 years to their own processors. And yesterday they announced the new Apple M1 silicon chip. And it has quite impressive specifications, I must say.
Yeah, just to point something, it's an ARM architecture. So when we talked a little bit about that on some videos and streams, and we have talked about how, it changed the... Okay. Sorry. And it changed... No, it changed a lot. So we have talked about that in the previous streams, and they actually now presented these laptops with this new chip, and they will be soon ready for commercial. So you can buy one quite soon.
So okay, so yesterday stream. It was again. I'm so confused that we switched places. Wait.
Yeah, but that.
Oh, still, damn it. Okay, let's turn back. Apple introduced the M1 chip yesterday at their One Last Thing event. Essentially, it's one last thing for 2020, and everybody knew what would be coming. Everybody knew that the new Apple Silicons would be presented. It was again a pre-recorded live stream, meaning that Apple filmed everything previously and then just live streamed the recording. They focused on 4 things mainly. That was the presentation and explanation of the M1 chip, and then the MacBook Air, MacBook Mini or MacBook Pro. Well, those 4 topics. And it's quite impressive. I mean, the M1 itself, they stated, of course, it's the most powerful thing you've ever seen. Super powerful, powerful. They talked so much about it yesterday. But it was a lot of marketing, but there were also a lot of true words to that. It is powerful and it is efficient. And Intel and AMD should be really scared about this because Apple is doing something, Nobody's doing something like that. I mean, they presented yesterday, I think it's the first 5 nanometer CPU that's being used on a laptop. I mean, of course, it's an ARM CPU.
Yep.
Apparently, they're way more successful than Apple is, than Intel is.
Maybe there is some Chromebook that has some Snapdragon that are already on 5 nanometers, but there are the Chromebooks. Maybe could be something like that because
who cares about Chromebooks?
Yeah.
So now, what's the M1? It's an 8-core CPU with the big little design, meaning that you have 4 high-performance cores and 4 high-efficiency cores. It has an 8-core GPU, though the MacBook Air has only 7 active cores on the smallest version. I have no idea why. Then there is a 16-core neural engine for machine learning in real time. And then also on the same chip, because it is a system on chip, they also have the DRAM there on it.
Yeah.
So you have everything in one chip, which is highly energy efficient. And also quite well performing. I mean, the Mac Mini, for example, you know, I actually had that old Mac Mini. It has the i3 8100 B. So it had 4 cores. It was okay.
Low level up. I mean,
it's a low level i3, but 4 cores, you can still do quite a lot with it.
Yeah.
Though you cannot use OBS in full HD.
I mean, it's more based on computational powers over CPU than GPU.
And they say that the M1 actually has 3 times the CPU performance and 6 times the GPU performance.
I hope that.
it's an integrated Intel chip, so but that's still really powerful. Yeah, and for the MacBook Pro, that's also impressive. They double the time for video playback. Instead of 10 hours, you now have 20 hours of video playback. That really shows, you can have it quite efficient, quite powerful on one side, but also quite efficient on the other side. And it's always those 2 words, performance and efficiency. And even the MacBook Air can run without any fan. And you can edit, I think it was 4K ProRes RAW footage on the MacBook Air. We're talking about really high quality 4K video that you can edit on a fanless machine. With the iPhone, it was already impressive. You had, I can shoot 4K 60 with my 3-year-old iPhone 10.
Yeah, shooting and processing is...
Wait. But I can also edit 4K 60 on it. That's again... And of course, the new MacBook Air with that latest processor can do a lot more than that. The chips are based on what Apple already had. So, the MacBook Air is running fanless. The MacBook Pro 13-inch and Mac Mini get a fan for better performance.
Yes, and that's something that I like, that we have now can have like laptops without a fan, because already our phones, no phone has actually a fan. So it's to have these nice lightful and noiseless devices that we can use.
Absolutely. And I really like what they're doing there. You've seen already with the iPad Pro, the latest one, that you can run so complex stuff on it, the iPad Pro, and it has no fan. Of course, it gets toasty. I have a 3-year-old iPad Pro as well, and on those iPad Pros, they appreciate heat on the back,
Yes, they were really hot.
Now imagine what you can do with a fan. And that's what they do on the MacBook Pro. That's what they do on the Mac Mini. All devices come with up to 2 terabytes of storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
The base, damn it, I didn't research that. But I think the base is always 256 gigabytes of SSD and 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Yeah, you have it's written on your.
Yeah, but I didn't look it up, but I think it was the same for all of those devices.
Okay.
The only thing there that I didn't like so much, it seems like the Mac Mini is a downgrade now from the previous. I mean, of course, you have this fancy M1 chip. But you now have only 2 Thunderbolt ports instead of 4.
Okay.
There is no 10 gigabyte option anymore. And the RAM, is it called like that in English? The random access memory is not user replaceable anymore. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, back the current Intel Mac Mini that they're selling, you can actually slide the unit out and you can upgrade the RAM there.
Yes, I remember that, and that was something that I also really like, because you have this little piece of PC that you can still improve and put some more RAM on it and change the.
And also what you're missing now, of course, are the CPU options. You know, with the Mac Mini, you could choose an i3, an i5, an i7 based on your requirements.
Yes.
Now it's the M1. Be happy. Thank you.
But I hope that they will still sell the Mac Mini's Intel version.
Yeah.
And
no, definitely for a while. Though I can understand the move that they went, because Intel sucks right now. Sorry for being so honest. But you know, when you compare CPU performance from Intel from the past years, I mean, you saw how Apple kept inventing, you know, and they cannot be reliable to Intel, while Intel just not really brings what they could do. I mean, you see it at AMD. What AMD is doing right now with their chips, especially the high performance ones. And it's interesting. I would really like to, you know, be in the meeting where Apple decided, should we use AMD or should we use our own chips? You know? Well, that never happened, so now we're with the M1. Another thing that I just found out, and wow, that makes me also quite pissed off. You cannot use external GPU enclosures anymore.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, probably there is some compatibility problems with the CPU.
I have no idea. I mean, that's what I liked so much about the previous Macs, the MacBook Pros, the Mac Mini, every device of Apple with Thunderbolt. You could also plug in an external GPU and use it. And also the cool part, you don't even have to use the display output of the eGPU. You can use your MacBook display, for example. Then it routes the data, you know, back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the case anymore. What a bummer. I really don't like that. And also they didn't mention anything about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Apple being Apple. Everything is so great. Oh, something is not there anymore. Well, there are interesting opinions in the community. Some critics say, or they criticize that Apple now owns everything, which is true. And the best example for this is the memory. Because upgrading from 8 to 16 gigabytes costs you $200.
Okay.
Now just sink that in for a second. $200 from 8 to 16 gigabytes. I purchased today, okay, it was a sale, it was a bit cheaper, but I purchased 32 gigabytes for my new iMac for $100. Now, that's 32 gigabytes of new storage, you know, for $100. And with the new M1 devices, you get from 8 to 16 for $200. That's so expensive. I mean, I don't know.
But you don't have the chance then to. Okay, no, that's for the. No, because in the laptops you didn't have the chance to improve.
No, not anymore.
RAM.
No.
And in the Mac Mini, they didn't do that. So they're actually controlling the RAM. So it seems like that you don't have the chance to improve your own machine that you buy. and it's becoming closer and closer.
And
but
that's
yeah,
also
I
the
think-
good part there, you know. Others criticize for them controlling everything, but then again, that's also the nice part. You know, Apple now controls the full vertical stack, you know, from software over firmware over hardware, everything is made by Apple. I mean, okay, the memory chips for the RAM, they probably have to source that out from somewhere, you know, from some other company. But beyond that, they probably do everything by their own, you know. It's their product really, like it's with their iPhones already.
yeah.
But this will be the killer feature of those new Macs, because if you now have software that is making use of those new CPUs, of those CPU cores, of that new GPU, and also there's the neural engine, which can do quite fancy stuff. If you use all three parts in your application, like Photoshop, for example, yeah, software will become
There is the
really
problem.
powerful.
Also, let's see that. I really think that a lot of software will improve a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see how many software will improve and how many software will have problems.
Yeah, I'm really interested how the new Rosetta approach will work. You know, you can essentially run every x86 Pro application that you have already on those machines. You know,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
emulating them.
Yeah.
And apparently it's working fine. You can even play games, you know.
Yeah. Working, it's working.
Yeah. Now imagine what will be possible on a 16-inch MacBook Pro with an upgraded M1. I'm really curious because, you know, the MacBook Pro, the 16-inch, it has a dedicated GPU. I will be really curious what they will do there. You know, will they still stick with a system on chip, you know, or will they split it up? Because I know on the MacBook Pro, the chip and the CPU, the GPU together, they have around 100 watts or a little bit more of power that they can consume for a very short time. Now, how will they do that? You know, will they still use AMD graphics and the Apple M1 chip? Or will they have some, I don't know, P1 chip for performance, you know? I expect them to develop a different CPU for those powerful models. But yeah, I'm really curious about that. It would have been really nice to see that yesterday already, but that will come another time apparently.
Yeah, and when they actually release these kind of units, and yeah, I think it will it will need some time before Apple is there.
They go step by step. I mean, they say it's a true 2-year transition phase. So let's see. What I think is impressive, the Firestorm core of the new A14 chip that's in the new iPhones and in the iPad Air, the new one. That one is already way better than AMD and what AMD and Intel has to offer today. And now you have those Firestorm cores also in the M1 chip, but you can dissipate more heat, you know. You can make them even more powerful than in those tiny devices already. I really like it. I really want to see how they perform. I mean, I'm happy with my iMac and everything, and I probably will not have one of those MacBooks too soon.
But in the future, yes, I really curious to see the benchmark case, see videos about touching the laptop, using the laptop, using the software, and have actually a perspective of a week of work with these laptops.
What I think is really impressive that shit, what did I want to say? I didn't write it down. Shit. Oh, yeah. Sorry. What I think is really impressive, that Apple is really the first company, in my opinion, doing the ARM approach very correctly. I mean, think about Windows. Microsoft had already the Surface back in 2012. It was.
Yes.
They ditched that. That didn't work out. Then you have the Surface X. Was it the name? Surface X. Another ARM computer from Microsoft that they just, gave to the world. And the x86 emulator is garbage. And now you have Apple really going with a step-by-step approach. And I mean, if you see, there are videos out there already with the Mac Mini, that they had with this development transition kit. And everything is working so flawless.
Yes, but on my opinion, I can make a little example. Let's say you have to go from point A to point B with a bike, okay?
Yeah.
Now, for this transition, for Apple, it's like you have this flat street without almost any steps on it or stuff
stuff, yeah.
Yes.
Sticks and stones.
Yes, thank you. And there is this other street, like where it's a forest and a lot of traps and stuff. That's how I see the difference. I mean, not that it's easy for Apple, but Apple has the advantage to have complete control over the software, over the compiling, and the development. And so it's so much easier for Apple doing that over Microsoft.
Yes.
Because Microsoft is so much more open. You have so much different softwares made differently. The OS, it's structured really differently. And to make an ARM CPU and OS that works on ARM, it's really it's not that easy, and it will not work for everyone because Windows users often have their own apps that they use, little apps that it's not rightly developed or provided by Microsoft. And so it's so much more easily that people complains about that. And we also have seen the project with this Surface X, how it went wrong, because each user...
But there is a thing, you say that Apple has this street with no issues where you run with your bike over.
Yeah, it's
you have to imagine... it's working. It's a perfect, fine analogy. The thing is, Apple worked years to make the path, that's a good analogy because Apple worked that path, they made it smooth. So when they start with this approach now for ARM CPUs on computers, it will work just fine. Windows or Microsoft, on the other hand, it was really like throwing some city bike into the forest. It was just like that. I mean, okay, they have the Windows Store,
but you have much more stuff. I mean,
yeah, of course, but you could prepare that years ahead. That's what Apple did silently. They didn't tell anyone.
Yes, but it's so much different approach. I mean, Apple, that's closed, okay, like a closed system, and that's why you can make this pad on
but
Windows.
With Microsoft, it's really similar. Microsoft is also a hardware producer now. I mean, Apple is not just a software giant; they are producing hardware. But this applies to Microsoft already as well. They produce their own hardware, they have their own software, and okay, they use Intel, AMD, they're open when it comes to that, and they have those drivers. But you know what I mean? If there is one company that should do it correctly, it should be Microsoft.
No,
next to Apple, it's like, of course, Dell, for example, or HP, they will not do AMD.
I mean, that would be could be done from who owns an OS, and there are Linux that works really fine on ARM. There is no problem.
Yeah, of course.
There is Apple and Microsoft, and the fact is, Apple is really close. So you do on an OS what they tell you to do. Okay, let's say so. You use their own apps. Use a lot of their own apps from Apple. You have to use software that's built for that. On Microsoft, you're much more open. You can have also for developing something. I mean, it works Java with different programming languages, and also you have to support programming languages of 20 years ago. There is a lot of programs that still run over Pascal. So you have to also give the chance to the users to use really old software, built also for older version, because that's also demanded from a lot of companies that is using Microsoft.
Yeah.
And you can have you actually can choose what to do with not that much as Linux, but it's more open. And so that this transition, it's harder because you don't have this power on the user that they can say, yeah, okay, you don't do that like that, you do this way how we tell you. That doesn't work on Windows. And if I'm using Windows, I know how I have to handle. How to
But
work.
then why do they try it with the Surface X? Why do they try so hard?
Because they know that the ARM is the future. And
but they are not implementing it future-proof.
Yeah,
Where is the ARM Photoshop, for example, or the other big software that is being developed for Windows? Where are the ARM editions for that?
Yeah, but that's the problem there, because Microsoft doesn't have that power. Microsoft cannot say, yeah, you will develop the apps with these softwares and these. Microsoft doesn't have that power. Apple does have. If you want to compile for Apple, you have to do that. That's it. Stop. You don't have any other chance. Developers have to follow the rules of Apple. On Microsoft, this doesn't exist. The developers can do, I want to do that. That's it. Microsoft doesn't have any power on that. They cannot prevent, now everyone has to compile for Windows with that. That's it. You will destroy so many companies and stuff, because you can have software in Python, in C, and they all compile differently. And that's the huge problem for Microsoft, because they don't have power over developers and user, and Apple has that power. And for that, it's easier for them to make software that it works on that. And that is where, so also for that, they have tried to emulate everything, okay?
Yes, they just went with the simple approach. I don't know.
That's the huge problem for Microsoft. For my opinion, it will be so fucking hard for Microsoft for have Windows that works so well, and that there is this transition over ARM. It will take years. Also because, for example, a lot of people that use Windows is for gaming. Intel sells a lot of CPUs and also NVIDIA, for gaming.
That's a whole economy for itself. I know what you mean. But there is no fluent transition or no possible transition.
I know you have also to. How many developers exist for gaming development? Okay, Microsoft cannot just say, now you develop for ARM.
Of course.
How many developers will complain about that? Everyone will complain. We worked like that so many years. Now we have to change on ARM. That's a huge step. You need so much time that the developers team can do that change. And it's so much difficult then, because who plays on macOS? There are so few games.
No, of course.
It's not a market for gamers, so they can do it, because there is maybe some guy that's complaining that cannot play The Sims on Mac. That's it.
That's actually one of my main things why I'm totally fine with my new iMac, even though Apple is presenting those new computers, is that I can still run Boot Camp on my iMac.
Yeah.
And I can still play games.
Yeah.
With an ARM MacBook, with the M1, you kind of sacrifice that.
Yeah. Or you install like the ARM version of Windows, but there is no reason to do that.
No, I don't think that they will do that. Also, Apple would have to do a boot camp version for that. But okay, let's continue here. One more recommendation for me is the Anand Tech article about the M1. Just Google Anand Tech M1. Like that.
Okay.
And they have a really nice article about the. I can actually just post it here into the chat as well. They have a really cool article where they talk about the technical details about level 1, level 2 cache,
Okay.
that kind of scenario. Also about the Firestorm core of the A14 and why it is so powerful and why it is so efficient,
Yeah.
So I can really recommend that article there.
I will also read it. It will be fun.
Then those new devices will all be available next Tuesday on the 17th of November. Yeah, let's see how the reviews will come in then and what they will say. I'm really curious. And so, yeah, that was our Apple topic. Now, let's go to the next one. That would be the AirTaxi service and how Lilium is going to do it.
Okay.
So
let's start with
go.
a little introduction. What is AirTaxi's service? So, taxi service with cars. Yeah, not cars with aircraft. Really simple. The idea is that you can travel between cities in a fast and simple way, avoiding the traffic of a city. Sometimes when you're in a city and you have to go to point A to point B, or from one city to another, it takes so much time.
Yeah, just drive into Zurich at 5 p.m.
Yes.
Good luck.
It's so much traffic that it makes hard. It takes time just for the traffic. So you take an aircraft, A, B, 30 minutes, done. That's the idea behind AirTaxi's service. And yes, I think, in my opinion, that this will be the focus where a lot of companies will go for the next 5 years, because we already have seen that a lot of startups had success with transportation services like Uber, BlaBlaCar, Flixbus, and others. That the main goal is to give really an easy experience for the user. Uber, you are somewhere in the city, you just in 5 minutes you have someone that comes to you, takes you, and brings you at home. You don't have
that was really good.
Yes, and you don't have to see, oh, okay. I mean, you know how buses works. It's made just for you, so it's really simple and easy for the user. Then there is BlaBlaCar, that's like Uber but for long distance traveling. I use it a lot from Milano to the center of Italy when I was living there. And you just check the app, you say, okay, this guy is going from here to here, I can go with him. It's fast, it's simple, and it's for your needs. And that's what they are trying to do now on this AirTaxi service. So Lilium, the main focus is that you give the chance to travel between cities, metropolis, in a fast way. We will also talk a little bit about the company itself. It's called, how we said, Lilium, and it's a Germany startup based in München that was founded for 4 persons in 2015. And in these 5 years, they developed their aircraft, they raised fundings. They started with a 10 million fundings, 2016, 2018 or something like that, 90 millions. And now this year they raised 275 millions.
What?
Yeah. And so they are growing.
Yeah, that's quite a growth. I mean, wow.
Yes, but
275 million.
Yes, this year. And yes, so their plan is that in 2025 there will be a lot of people that's using that, so they will start to giving access to the user. They also already made some tests with the aircraft, and yes, so there are also competitors from Toyota. Hyundai is working on that, Uber also. So let's see how this will develop. I gave a little bit of a focus on Lilium. I liked a lot their web page. It's really, really well made. And yes.
Can you show a little bit of it?
Yes. I want to talk about the experience that you have as a user. And so I will open something. Okay. And for me, it's really important that you book something that you are then can go where the station is and go without without scheduling. And what I think they are doing, it's actually that. So you have this app where you can say from where to where you want to go, and then they are already starting to making the wait, sorry. Hide. Okay, air traffic control, the maintenance, and also the scheduling and capacity option. And there, it's what I hope that it's not that you have to see when these aircraft starts, but when you need them, like actually a taxi. And that's something that's really, really interesting. The aircraft can travel with 4 persons, and so it should be not that difficult to organize aircraft with 4 person that goes from A to B in quite fast time. So yeah, that's the app and how it should work. So you will just order something and it should be ready for your need.
But how is it working? I mean, will they just arrive on your street, or how will that work? Oh, there was Zurich.
No. Yeah, there is a station. There is a station. They don't pick you up. Okay.
No, that's boring.
Yeah, but it would be too complicated otherwise because you need
so cool.
Yeah, but you need an actual station because wait, let me put that back, and I just explained that because it's not service that it's inside the city, so you cannot go from in Zurich itself from A to B. It's more between external cities, so Zurich, Venice, München, Innsbruck.
Okay, now I understood that network there on
yes,
the
yes, yeah. And for that it's and it's really important on America because America is so big. There are a lot of cities, and it makes more sense to travel from there to there. In Europa, I think a little less, maybe we will see. But for who wants to travel a little bit more during weekends, should be really fun. I mean, I can go in Innsbruck in half an hour, and yeah.
So I mean, the demand will be super high, wouldn't it?
It depends.
I mean, when I think of getting such a service, I would really think, going to Zurich to that little station there and really not waiting too long,
No, that's the idea. You don't have to wait. I mean, I want to go in Innsbruck. You book it, and in 20 minutes you go there and you jump in and you go.
But how do they do it with security then?
Yeah, it's not an actual play. It's different. It's
I could still have a weapon.
Yeah, but yeah, you can also have weapon when you go inside a car. I mean,
yes, but with a car, I cannot, fly somewhere in. I mean, it's a small plane, so the damage is limited.
Yes, and there is just for people, and the travel is not more than 30-40 minutes, so you cannot travel so fast. It's just in 30 minutes of range. And there will be a lot of certificates that they have to do, and so they're still doing that. So there will be a huge problem for them to do something that works easily and fine for users, so that you don't have this much that you have to check so much, because you cannot have these bags. I mean, it's just like you take a service, you can have a little bag and that's it. You don't use that for going, let's say, an actual travel. So it's something that's, you go like in a car, in Uber, you don't have like these bags and stuff. It's really more simple, the concept.
Can you show more?
Yes, also I wanted to show how there is this little video where you can see how a station is. So it's really little station and really simple. So you just go in, there is the reception, you show the ticket or something like that, you go in, that's it. There is not so much to do actually in these airports, because it's really simple. Really, it should be really be fast. And then we can also see the aircraft itself. So how we said, it's just for 4 person plus the pilot. And so we can see, wait, maybe I have some, okay, that's from above. So you have here these engines, you have here engines and here engines.
What kind of engines?
I don't know now exactly which engines, but is this like
okay,
motor? Yeah.
little turbines. Okay.
Yes, turbines.
Is it electrically?
Yes, it's
fueled?
electrical.
Oh,
Yes, and
interesting.
what they have trying to do is to make it more like a car than an actual plane. There is so much less objects. How can I say of these aircraft that are more simple to build than a plane, because it's not a plane. Okay, so it's more like a car.
Yes, you have you have the battery, you have those engines. You don't have, like with airplanes, you have jet engines. That's a complete different technology already. I see what they want to do there. Yeah.
And what is really interesting, we can see it. Oh, here, sorry. So when they start, the engines are facing down.
Yes.
It's like a jet, and then it goes up, and then in the meantime, these engines turn over, like it's showing in the video, and then he can go further.
Yes.
And then when you go, when you arrive, he takes them down, and you, like an helicopter, you go down. So it's. And
I would be really curious how fast they can go with that.
They can go 300 kilometers per hour for 60 minutes.
16 or 60?
60.
60 minutes, okay. So that's one charge for the battery, essentially, or?
Yes. I read it somewhere, but it's 300 kilometers per hour. Yeah, I don't see it.
Can you show the timeline there again? Wait.
Yeah, that's what they have done right now. Okay, so fundraising, the prototypes, what they did, flight test.
So much money. But okay, it's an interesting industry there.
And we can also see the map. So you see, that's for Europe. And this is how it will be connected. So for Zurich,
Hamburg.
But you see, from Zurich, you can, let me start again. Travel so in many countries. I mean, you can go in Germany, or Basel, or Fribourg, Innsbruck, in half
Zurich,
an hour.
Ingolstadt, Regensburg, they're really like the center of this network.
And that would make Europe so much connected, actually. That's something really interesting and fun, because, for example, now, for me to go in Innsbruck takes 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
That should be half an hour. And also here, that's an example in USA, because they're building now a station in Orlando, and they made this example for Tampa. So you see here with a train or bus, I don't know what this is, it takes 2 hours. With the car, it takes between 1 hour and a half to 2 hours. Depends which way you go. And with this aircraft, it's just half an hour.
Yeah.
And you see, you can travel Orlando, Tampa when you need. So you just check, you buy a ticket in half an hour. And that's a huge improvement.
Yeah, that would be really, if it's working, if they can fight the demand, I'm curious how expensive such a flight will be, Also, the carbon dioxide footprint per person, in the flight. I mean, big planes have the advantage that you can fill in so many people, and over a long distance flight, it would be more efficient in driving, for each person. Now for this Lilium, you have 4 people.
Yes.
And you have, half an hour would drain half of the battery. It would be really interesting how big the carbon footprint would be there. Is it really, many people are fighting against, for example, when you travel from Zurich to Frankfurt, for example, you can go by train.
Yes.
But many people take the airplane. and that's really inefficient, actually. Going from Zurich to Frankfurt by the plane.
Zurich.
Yeah, Frankfurt.
Okay, I don't think there is something from here to here. That's way too.
Okay, then what do we have? I think there is even a connection Zurich Stuttgart. No, you see, Zurich Frankfurt is connected.
Oh yeah, okay, wow.
So okay, now if you would go that same distance, I would expect them to be way more efficient. That's what I would really like to see.
And also that's why they have these small planes with 4 people, because being just 4 people, so you can have this on-demand service. So let's say there is, in Zurich there is a lot of people, 400,000 people. How many of people have to go on the same hour in Frankfurt? I think there would be 4, 5, 6 people. So
yeah,
and I think they can also travel with just one flight, because it's electrical, so don't have this so many expense as another flight. It's small, it's electrical, so it making more and more travels. On my opinion, I don't know that if it's true or not, but I think will be more cheap than these big airplanes, because it's so smaller and costs so much less. So also if you are 2 people, they can still go there, and maybe also with one person you can travel. It doesn't have to be filled. So, but there is still this time where they try to improve, optimize, this when you can start and how many people we can fit in this flight. And that's the really nice thing, because let's imagine you have to go to Frankfurt, you go off work, you buy a ticket. In 1 hour, you are in Frankfurt.
No, by train it's 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I'm talking about with Lilium.
Yeah. It will only take you an hour at the end.
Yes, because you have to go there, then in half an hour, 40 minutes maybe, you are there. And
if it will be so quick, like actually getting a taxi, that would be nice,
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I know your image was frozen for a second.
Okay, now it's working now. Yeah. And yes, that's really something that I like. That you can travel in Europa really fast and with so much less stress. And I think who will win this, be the big service provider of taxi air service, is who will give the user the most simple experience.
Yeah.
And what I saw here, it's Lilium is doing in the correct way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I never heard of them before, and now I think it's really future-proof. That would be cool. It's actually, it makes more sense, like flying taxis in the city. You know what I thought would it be?
Yeah.
That they arrive at your house from the air. That would be super cool, but I think this is way more difficult.
Complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, alone the battery and everything, Yeah, that's cool. That's really interesting.
Let's see. I think the price will be quite high at the beginning. At the start, will be used by people that has money, and usually people that will need that stuff. It's also people that works in like these big companies that have to travel for work in these big cities, and that will be a huge improvement for them if it works correctly.
Yeah.
And here it's also just a simple reminder about the certificate process, because it will be a huge part for them. So you see there is a pre-application, a formal application, document evaluation, demonstration and inspection, then you can have a final certification.
Yes.
And it's really complicated and hard to get all these certification, because you are still a little airplane, so you need so much certificates that you can fly that will not be easy.
Well, they have to make sure that it will fly. And it will stay in the air,
Yeah, and another thing, they will start with actual drivers, so pilots, but from when they start, in 10 years, they want that it's automatic.
Okay.
Yeah, because there is already some air taxi service that's trying to do that with autopilot, but I don't think they have like this huge user background or experience like Lilium.
I think, in my opinion, also it's probably way more possible. I mean, today the planes always have autopilot. The big planes.
Yeah.
But the start and the landing, they do that manually.
Yes.
Because it's the most complex and most difficult part. Now those planes by Lilium, they start vertically.
Exactly. So it's so much easier.
So essentially, it's like starting a drone, and drones can already start vertically on their own.
But I think that they already have the technology to throw them with autopilot. I mean, it's something that already exists, and I think they have it. But
it will take time
for the certificates and prove that it's working. Everything, that's the huge problem, and that will be so much easier for them because you don't have to patent the pilots.
Yes.
You have just to pay the maintenance of the structures and of the aircrafts.
I mean, that's what everyone would like to have right now, full autonomy, because then you really cut costs.
Yes, and that's probably the pilots. I mean,
yeah. Okay, then let's see how that will turn out in the future.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
Yeah, and I guess also that was it for today. Actually, we already streamed for almost an hour. So we thought that would be short, but I mean, we picked two topics that were not
in focus of the two topics.
Yeah. I didn't expect that we talked so much about those two topics, but it was good to be back. So I guess then we will be back next Wednesday again at 7:30 p.m. Central European Time. Until then, stay fresh and see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.